Hey guys, and welcome to this video all about box plots. In this video we're going to go through the gist of box plots, their features, how they work, how you can draw them and how you can use them. And in the next one we'll actually run through an example. So box plots are a really good graphical visual way to display data, numerical data, quite easily. Okay, it's easy to look at, easy to see, easy to read, easy to analyze. And it just uses information from the 5-number summary. So the minimum, quartile 1, the median or quartile 2, quartile 3, and the maximum values or maximum scores. Really easy to see a whole bunch of information on your box plot. Now in my diagram here, I've got a diagram of a box plot there for you. Okay, and we can see all the different features. So we can see the minimum value. We can see the maximum value. Okay, then we can see Q1, Q1, and Q3. So there's quartile 1 and quartile 3. And then obviously here is our quartile 2. And that is often referred to as our median. Okay, so there's all our quartiles taken care of. Why is this called a box plot? Well, it includes a box, funnily enough. Now that box is essentially the interquartile range. Okay, it goes from Q1 to Q3 and is the interquartile range. So that is a piece of information that we usually use with the 5-number summary. It also shows the whole range from minimum to maximum. It shows the median. Now what happens is that box, the interquartile range, is the box, a part of the box plot. And then we have what we call whisker plots. We used to refer to these as box and whisker plots. But now we tend to just use box plots. Now one other thing to think about with box plots, and something that is quite handy to know, is we have it all separated up into sections. Quite nicely, I might add. So there's the sections there. Well, I've probably drawn that a little bit far. Not quite paying attention to what I'm doing. So we have our sections. We actually have 4 sections. There's actually 4 sections here. And that means that all of our data is evenly divided up into 4 sections. Now, it may not look even all the time, but what it actually represents is 25% of the data sits in that section. 25% of the data sits in that section. And so on and so forth. Alright, so each section holds a quarter or 25% of the data. Okay, so there's some good features around the box plot and some of the ways it can be used visually. Now, we can look at outliers with box plots as well. What we would do is we would use our our outliers calculation. So our Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR, and we would use our Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR to find our outliers. And we wouldn't include them in the box and whisker section of the box plot. What we do is we find where they sit and we chuck it on with a cross. So we mark it with a cross. Okay, so that's how that works. you can see here we've got an outlier. This becomes our new max, and then the outlier sits outside of that. All right. Outliers don't tend to affect medians. They also don't tend to including them too much, because it does have a major effect on the range. In terms of our measure of spread, you can see the range would be much bigger, including that outlier. But it also has a real effect on the mean, so we don't want it to affect the mean quite so much. So that's why we don't tend to pop it in. Now, another thing that we can do with box plots is we can actually use parallel box plots. Now, these tend to be 2 sets of data. You can have 3. You might be able to stretch it to a 4th, but once you get past there, it's really not going to help us at all. Okay, so 2, 3, 4 at an absolute stretch. Don't want to go past 4, but you can use this to compare data. You can see on this dot plot, or box plot rather, that it has all 5 parts of the 5-number summary. Okay, and that's on both of our box plots. So we have our min, Q1, Q2, or the median, Q3, and the max. Alright, so we have our 5 numbers all on display. We can see that the European cars have an outlier. So that particular outlier, it's not really a part of that data. It's something that's an aberration, doesn't really count when we're thinking about it. Okay, but we can see here that the Japanese cars, it has a higher minimum, a higher median, and a higher maximum, which tells you that you're probably going to get a better fuel efficiency out of a Japanese car. Alright, that's what this box plot's all about, is fuel consumption. So that is the features of our box plot. Okay, one last thing to do with those box plots though, you can see here that we have a scale, which is just part of a number line. Just part of a number line. And it has to be the same for both box plots. Okay, so if you've got more than one box plot, they need to be on the same scale. So I'll pop that down here. Okay, so multiple box plots must be on the same scale. Okay, so that's how that one works. So they are all the features of a box plot. Tends to be how you draw them as well. You use all that information and they can show you lots of really good stuff. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll run through an example and show you exactly how they work.